Good day, everyone. I am Joanne Cagas, and I am with Miss Jocelyn Abusejo, Mr. Christian J. Tan Basara, Miss Angel Marie Danielle, and Miss Rodeline Liamet. Today, we are going to present our topic, the foundations of planning and control of process and employees. So let's start with the foundations of planning. So, planning involves defining the organization's goals. So, dili man ta makaplan kung wala pa ta kay bawo sa goals sa ato organization. So, we need to determine the um, organization's goals first. And then, establishing an overall strategy for achieving these goals. So, if na determine na nimo ang goals sa usa ka organization, then you will you will have your strategy to how to achieve it and developing plans for organizational and work activities. So, magganat na ka og unsaon nimo pag-work to achieve that goal. So, purposes of planning. There are four purposes of planning. The first one is planning gives direction to the managers and non-managers of an organization. So, makaingon ta og planning gives direction kay ang isa ka manager or an ordinary employee, dili ra sila magtrabaho nga wala ra. Nagtrabaho sila kay naa sila goal or target sa ilang para sa ilang organization. And then the second one, planning reduces uncertainty. So kung magplano ta, magamayan ang mga butang nga pwedeng makadaot or makaguba sa atong organization. And then the third one, planning minimizes waste and uncertainty. So, nag-minimize siya sa waste and uncertainty. Mo tang giingan nga pwedeng makadaot sa isa ka organization. Nag-minimize siya. For the last one, planning establishes the goals or standards used in controlling. So, ang planning himo siya or maka-create og standards nga pwede nimong magamit in terms of controlling sa mga butang or sa employees nimo. Planning and performance. Although organizations that use formal planning do not always outperform those that do not plan, most studies show positive relationship between planning and performance. So formal planning, it is the form of well-structured process involving different steps. So, ang formal planning nag-base ni siya og kanang mura siya guidelines or mga steps nga sundon. Effective planning and implementation play a greater part in high performance than does the amount of planning done. Studies have shown that when formal planning has not led to higher performance, the external environment is often the reason. The role of goals and plans in planning. Planning is often called the primary management function because it establishes the basis for all other functions. So, there are four management functions. Kani sila is the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. So, ang planning, siya ang primary management function kay siya ang gibasihan sa the three other functions, which is the organizing, leading, and controlling. Kay unsa may imong i-organize, 'di ba ang plan? And then leading, unsa may imong i-lead ang imong plan nga imong gi-organize na. And then controlling, imong pag-control kung sa imong mga employees to achieve the said plan. So, goals. Goals, often called as the objective. The goals are desired outcomes for individuals, groups, or the entire organizations. So, ang goals, siya ang imong temeng or gusto nga mahitabo. There are different types of goals. The first one, financial goals versus the strategic goals. So when we say financial goals, it is financial performance of the organization. So, nagbase siya sa kwarta. Like for example, gusto ka nga mo gain ka in terms of financial. And then the strategic goals, it is related to other areas of an organization performance. So, ang strategic, ang performance sa usa ka organization. The second one is the stated goals versus real goals. So, stated, what an organization says and what it wants its various stakeholders to believe its goals are. So, stated, ilarang gipang storya or gi paniwalaan nga maoy go sa ilang organization. And then, ang real goals, it is an organization actually pursues as defined by the action of its members. So, ang real goals, it is an organization actually pursues as defined by the actions of its members. So, ang real goals, kuan ang pagbuhat na nga sa gusto nimo nga mahitabo kanang with the help of your co-members. The next part is the types of plans. The plans can be described by breed, time frame, specificity, and the frequency of use. So on the basis of breed, plans can be strategic or operational plans. So, in strategic plans, it is a long-term plan. Plans that apply to the entire organization, establish the overall goals, and seek position the organization in terms of its environment. So, ang strategic plans, long-term siya, kay from the word strategy, so, sa strategy, taas man dyan na dagan kag kanang bale mo siya og by steps ingan ha nga imong i-follow mong long term siya. And then sa operational plans, it is a short term plans that specify the details of how goals are to be achieved. So, operational plans kuan gi direct to the point na nimo siya maong naka short term. Direct to the point sa goals kung unsaon ni pag-achieve. And then, on the basis of time frame, it can be short term or long term. So, from the word short term, short, so, nubo ra. Short term cover only 1 year or less. Kung long term, plans without time frame beyond 3 years. So on the basis of specificity, plans can be specific or directional plans. So when we say specific plans, it is clearly defined and leave no room for interpretation. So gispecify na niya, direct to the point ijang paghatag sa plano and leave no room for interpretation. Masabtan na siya dayon kay pwede na siya nga dili na i-interpret. And then, directional plans, it can be flexible plans that set out general guidelines. So, directional plans, daghan pa kag i-follow nga mga guidelines. And then, on the basis of frequency of use, plan can be single use or standing plans. Single plan is a one-time specifically designed to meet the need of a unique situation. So, single plan, from the word single, one-timers specifically designed. Gi-specific rapad siya pagkahimoa. And then, standing plans are ongoing plans that provide guidance for activities performed repeatedly. So, standing plans, kanang gakamulo pa siya, still in progress nga plano,
nag-provide siya nga i-guide sa mga activities nga balik-balik or gihapon pagka perform.
Next is the approaches to establishing goals to be presented by Ms. Jocelyn Abosejo.
Good day, I am Jocelyn Emsao, and we will continue discussing about the approaches of establishing goals. Goals can be established through the process of traditional goal setting or through MBO or the management by objective. Traditional goal setting is an approach to setting goals in which goals are set at the top level of the organization and broken into sub goals for each level of the organization. So, the traditional goal setting assumes that the top managers know what's best because of their ability to see the big picture. Employees are to work to meet the goals for their particular area of responsibility. This traditional approach requires that goals must be more specific as they flow down to lower levels in the organization. In striving to achieve a specificity, however, objectives sometimes lose clarity and unity. With goals set at a higher level, and when the hierarchy of organizational goals is clearly defined, it forms an integrated means and chain. Means and chain is an integrated network of goals in which the accomplishment of goals at one level serve as the means for achieving the goals or ends at the next level. So, the management by objectives or MBO is a process of setting mutually agreed upon goals and using those goals to evaluate employee performance. Studies of actual MBO programs confirm that MBO can increase employee performance and organizational productivity. We have the characteristics of well designed goals. So we have written in terms of outcomes. Written in terms of outcomes is focuses on the ends, not the means. When this is written in terms of outcomes. Then we have the measurable and quantifiable is meaning consider ng how the outcome is to be measured and how much is expected. We have also clear as a time frame. So meaning na is how long before measuring accomplishment. Meaning goals without time frame make an organization less flexible. Then we have also the challenging but attainable is example low goals din mo siya i-motivate. Then kung high goals, motivate if di ka na achieve. Man siya challenging but attainable. Then we have the written down. It is focuses, defines, and makes goals visible. And then we have the tangible evidence of the importance of working toward something. And we have the lastly, the communicated to all organizational members. One is that puts everybody on the same page. Next, we have the developing plans. The process of developing plans is influenced by three contingency factors and by the particular planning approach used by the organization. So we have the three contingency factors in planning are we have the manager's level in the organization. A manager level in the organization is operational planning usually dominates the planning activities of lower level managers. As managers move up through the levels of the organization, their planning becomes more strategy oriented. Muna si Jai, managers level in the organization. We have the degree of environmental uncertainty. It is the greater the environmental uncertainty, the more directional plans should be with emphasis placed on the short term when uncertainty is high. Plans should be specific but flexible. Managers must be prepared to rework and amend plans or even to abandon their plans if necessary. Then the next one is the length of future commitments. It is according to the commitments concept, plans should extend far enough to meet those commitments made today. Planning for too long or for too short a time period is inefficient and ineffective. Approaches to planning. In a traditional approach, planning was done entirely by top level managers who were often assisted by a formal planning department. Another approach to planning is to involve more members of the organization in the planning process. In this approach, plans are not handed down from one level to the next, but are developed by organizational members at various levels to meet their specific needs. Criticism of planning. So, we have the five major arguments have been directed against planning. So, first, we have the planning may create rigidity. And the second one is the plans can be developed for a dynamic environment. And the third one is former plans can replace intuition and creativity. And then the fourth one is planning focuses managers' attention on today's competition, not on tomorrow's survival. And the last one is formal planning reinforces success, which may lead to failure. The external environment is constantly changing. Therefore, managers should develop plans that are specific but flexible. Managers must also recognize that planning is an ongoing process, and they should be willing to change direction if environmental conditions warrant. Flexibility is particularly important because managers must remain alert to environmental changes that could impact the effective implementation of plans, and they must be prepared to make changes as needed.
Control of employees and process. Essence of control. Control is a primary goal-oriented function of a management in an organization. It is a process of comparing the actual performance with the set standards of the company to ensure that activities are performed according to the plans, and if not, then take some action, corrective action. So it means that the essence of control is you can oversee the work whether it is going on what's the plan or not, because if not, then you can do something that would would fit to the plan. So above here are the features of controlling. There are 8 features of controlling, and I think that it is very understandable naman, di ba, to explain pa. So, move. Nature of controlling. Based on the above definition of the following natures or characteristics of controlling can be presented below. First is control is a function of management. Actually, control is a follow-up action to the other functions of management performed by managers to control the activities assigned to them in the organization. The second is control is based on planning. Control is designed to evaluate actual performance against predetermined standards set up in the organization. So, mga plano, mga unsay mga angay buhaton. Number 3 is control is a dynamic process. It involves continuous review of standards of performance and result in corrective action, which may lead to changes in other functions of management. So when we say dynamic, it changes over time. Since controlling requires taking revival method or changes have to be made whether or possible mo nang mausog jud siya. So the fourth one is information is the guide to control. Control depends upon the information regarding actual performance. Accurate and timely availability of feedback is essential for effective control action. An efficient system of reporting is required for a sound control system. This requires continuous monitoring and review of operation. I think it's through information, makabuhat natas atong buhaton. This means that through gihatag nga information, makabuhat sa atong mga plano nga angay natong buhaton or mga that infos about sa atong buhaton. So number 5 is the essence of control is action. The performance of control is achieved only when corrective action is taken on the basis of feedback information. It is only action which adjusts performance to the predetermined standards whenever deviations occur. A good system of control facilitates timely action so that there is a minimum waste of time and energy. So, sim- as simple as this, control is meaningless without actions. So everything must have some actions. Essence of good control system is to take right action at the right time. Number 6, it is continuous activity. Control is not one-stop process, but a continuous process. Continue. It I it says that it has a lot. It has a long process. It takes time. It takes time due to constant changes. Just like what I have said in number 3, that dynamic process or changes over time. Number 7, delegation is the key to control. An executive can take corrective action only when he has been delegated necessary authority for it. A person has authority to control this function for which he is directly accountable. Moreover, control becomes necessary when authority is delegated because the delegator remains responsible for the duty. It means that gi-distribute niya ang mga work sa another person or sa iyang mga subordinates, mura gibahin-bahin ni job para mas, I think mas madali siguro ang trabaho. Number 8, control aims to future. Control involves a comparison between actual and standards. So corrective action is designed to improve performance in the future. So simple as kuan, kinahanglan nga atong buhaton is ato jung nahunaon kay mo-reflect na siya sa atong, or I mean dili na siya mausob ba hangtod na sa future. Char. 9. Control is a universal function of management. Control is basic or primary function of management. Once a plan becomes operational, follow-up action is required to measure progress, to uncover deficiencies, and to take corrective actions. Therefore, control is an essential managerial function at every level. The process of management is incomplete without controlling. The last number, 10. Controlling is positive. The function of controlling is positive. It is to make things happen and to achieve the goal with instead constraint or by means of the planned activities. Control positive means always always be a optimistic person when it comes to planning. Okay, dili o negative always imong nahuna, so bidya imong outcome sa imong projects. Scope of controlling management. The scope of controlling is a very wide. A well-designed plan of control cover almost all management activities according to Holden, Fish, and Smith. The main areas of control are as follows: control over policies. The success of any business organization to a large extent depends upon how far its policies are implemented. So, so everything I policies are very important to make your business more successful and progressive. Second is control over organization. Control over organization is accomplished through the development of organizational chart and organizational manual. Organizational manual attempts at solving organizational problems and conflicts, making long-range organizational planning possible, enabling a rationalization of organization structure, helping in a proper design of organization and department. Means that ways to act and decide ways to meet the firm's objectives. Control over personnel. The statement that management is getting the work done through people underlines sufficiently the importance of control of personnel. All employees working at different level must perform their assigned duties well and direct their efforts controlling their behavior. So, personnel, control over personnel. You control you have the power to control your subordinates to do their job or to do their task. Another one is control over wages and salaries. Control over wages and salaries. Such type of control is done by having program of job evaluation and wage and salary analysis. This work is done either by personnel department or industrial engineering department. Often wages and salary committee is constituted to help this department in the task of controlling wages and salaries. So when we say wages and salaries, it talks about sweldo sa mga tao kay og dili na tapos sweldo ng mga tao dili pa sila magtrabaho. Control over cost. Control over cost control is exercised by the cost accountant by setting cost standards for material, labor, and overheads and making comparison of actual cost data with standard cost. Cost control is supplemented by budgetary control system. Reducing business expenses by managing and analyzing data. Control over cost is nag-reduce ka sa mga mga dili kayo kinahanglanon sa business. Para makales ka. Control over methods. Control over methods is accomplished by conducting periodic analysis of activities of each department. The functions performed, methods adapted, and time devoted by every employee is studied with a view to eliminate non-essential motions, function, and method. Another one is control over capital expenditure. It is control over capital expenditures. It is exercised through a system of evaluation of projects, ranking of projects in terms of their rank power and appropriate capital to various projects. A capital budget is prepared for the whole term. So, control over capital expenditure is mga budget to acquire or mga budget sa inyong nga project. Kaya, way budget sa project, ito nakabot sa project to or pang paap mga materials, mga equipments. Control over research and development. Such activities are highly technical in nature, so no direct control is possible over them. By improving the ability and judgment of research staff through training programs. Control over external relations. Public Relations Department is responsible for controlling the external relations of the enterprise. It may prescribe certain measures for other operating departments which are instrumental in improving external relations. Ways of control over external relations. It means that ways on organizing relationship with the firms between the or any public institutions. Overall control, the last one. It is effective through budgetary control. Master plan is prepared for overall control and all the departments are made involved in this procedure. For effective control through the master plan, active support of the top management is essential. Overall control, so it means the totality of the projects that you wanted to build. The kinds of control. In an organization, from the president to supervisor, the function that is performed with utmost care and respect is the controlling process. Here, control refers to the task that ensures that activities are producing the required goals and targets. Thus, controlling helps in monitoring that will be the outcome of the activities. Furthermore, it reviews the feedback information about this outcome. So above here are there are three, which is feedward control, concurrent control, feedback control. Sa feedward control, activities has not yet occurred. Sa concurrent control, activity being performed. So feedback control, activities has not yet performed. So feed forward control. Feed forward control are future directed. They attempt to detect and anticipate problems or deviations from the standards in advance of their occurrence. They are in process controls and are much more active, aggressive in nature, allowing corrective actions to be taken in advance of the problems. So, feed forward control is you attempt to identify the problems before it will happen. I mean imong na na vision or mga problems nga imong padung ma-encountered para if that problems happen dili ay para malikayan nimo ang mga problems. Feed forward controls thus anticipate problems and permit actions to be taken before problem arises. Feed forward control devices are two broad categories, which are diagnostic and therapeutic. Diagnostic controls seek to determine what deviation is taking or has taken place. The sales manager, for instance, who received the monthly sales figure showing sales quota results, is virtually working with diagnostic control device. It will no doubt indicate deviations from the acceptable standard or what is wrong, but not why. Discovering the why is often the most difficult part of the process. Second one is therapeutic controls. Tell us both what and why, and then proceed to take corrective action. For example, engines having internal control systems such as engine speed, governor, and automatic transmissions are designed to take necessary corrective actions when warranted by the conditions. In case deviation occurs, the manager observes it, diagnoses the reasons for the incorrect technique, and corrects the deviation immediately. Thus, the control and correction takes place during the process itself, not after a few days. Concurrent control, also called steering control, because it allows people to act on a process or activity while it is proceeding, not after it is proceeding, nor after it is completed. Corrections and adjustments can be made as and when the need arises, such as control focus on establishing conditions that will make it difficult or impossible for deviations from norms to occur. For example, of concurrent control is the development by companies of job description and job specification. It may be recalled that job description identifies the job that has to be done, thus clarifying working relationship, responsibility areas, and authority relationships. It does assess in preventing unnecessary duplication of effort and potential organizational conflict. Or in short, concurrent prevention control, also known as steering and preventive controls, are ongoing controls that help maintains quality and consistency. They usually involve the monitoring employees directly with the customers of the manufacturing process. That's all about control of employees and process.
Feedback controls. Feedback control is future oriented. It is historical in nature and it also known as post actions control. The applications is that the measured activity has already occurred and it is impossible to go back and correct performance to bring it up to standard. Rather, correction must occur after the act. So, feedback control, it means that murag final output na siya nga humanon ug buhat tanan dili na nimo mausab kay humana man ag unsay nakabutang maura jud to siya. And also, the purpose of feedback is to keep the controlled variable close to its set point. So, there are informations in management feedback above in illustration. So, there are inputs, work in progress, and output. So, all the forms of controls described above are useful. Feed forwards and preventations control are sufficiently timely to permit management to make corrective changes and still achieve objective. So, they have great appeal to management. But there are certain defects of these two forms of control. Firstly, are they costly? So it must be suggested that management must therefore use the control system that is most appropriate for the given situation. So, control standard. A control standard is a target against which subsequent performance performance will be compared. So, ang control standard nasa two categories in are quantitative and qualitative standard. So, standards are criteria that enable managers to evaluate future, current, or past action. There are measured variety of ways, including physical, quantitative, and qualitative terms. So, in control standard, naas dyan 5 aspect of performance can be managed and controlled. So, ang first, quantity, and second, quality, third, time, fourth, cost, and the last one is behavior. So, most of the 5 aspect of the performance can be managed and controlled. So, standard may also reflect specific activities or behavior that are necessary to achieve organization's goal. So, goals are translated into performance standards by making them measurable. So, ang organization goal to increase market share, for example, may be translated in the top management performance standard to increase market by share by 10% with a 12-month period. Helpful measures of strategies performance include sales, 98 total, by division, product, category, and region. Sales growth, net profits, return or sales, assets, equity, and investment cost of sales, cash flow, market share, product, equality, value added, and employees' productivity. So, ang qualification of the objective standard are sometimes difficult. So, organization compares its product with those of competitors and determines the extent to which its pensioners and the introduction of business
products and product improvement. Such standards may exist even though they are not formally and explicitly stated. Management must develop standards in all performance areas touched on by establishment organization goals. The savior form standards are defense on what it being measured and out managerial levels responsible for taking corrective action. So, the following 8 types of standards had been set. First, profitability standard. These standards indicate how much profit the company would like to make it given time period. So, example, measured with income and expenses. So, second, market position standard. These standards indicate the percentage of total product that market that company would like to win from competitors. So, example like pin shop and branch murag nga competition na sila. And third, productivity standard. These productions-oriented standard indicate various acceptable rates which final product should be generated with the organization. So, the fourth, product leadership standard. Product leadership standards indicate what levels of product innovation will make people view of company products as leader in the market. So it's all about product leadership is all about understanding the customer's need and providing their unique experience through innovative products. And the personnel development standard. Personnel development standard less acceptable of progress in this area. So, personnel. So, mag-base tas dyan mga kadang behavior and unsas dyan sa mga skills, mga knowledge, so made organization usually it also plan and implemented with significant resource and value put of employees to improve their performance. And the 7 employee attitude standard. These standards indicate attitudes that the company employees should adapt. Nag-show sila sa employees show sila og negative and positive display of motivation. So, ang employees can trust in all things, be punctual and reliable, and also be responsible employee. The 8 are public responsibility standard. All organizations have certain obligations to society. The company standard in this area indicate acceptable levels of activity with the organizations directed toward living up social responsibilities. Standards reflecting balance between short-range and long-range goals. So, standard in this area indicate with the acceptable long and short-range goals are and relationship among them. So, critical control points and standard. So, the principal critical points control, one of the more important control principles, state effective control requires attention against plans. There are, however, no specific catalog or control available to manager because of the peculiarities of various enterprises and departments. Appraisal of employees' performance. Appraisal of employees' performance. Performance appraisal is a systematic evaluation of performance of employees and due to understand the abilities of a person for further growth and development. So, there are 3 performance appraisal in generally done in scientific ways. So, first, the supervisor measure the pay of employees and compare it with targets and plan. And the second, the supervisor analyzes the factors behind work performance of employees. The third, the employees are in position to guide the employees for a better performance. So, mo ito ang mga performance appraisal in generally done in systematic ways. The objective of performance appraisal. Performance appraisal can be done with the following objectives in mind: to maintain records in order to determine competitive package, wage structure, salaries, rises, and kuan mag-record yun na sila per me para ma-determine nila na naaba sila kuwang sa mga package or mga salaries. And second, to identify the strength and weakness of employees to place right man on right job. Third, to maintain the assess the potential present in a person for further growth and development. To provide a feedback to employees regarding their performance and related status. To provide a feedback to employees regarding their performance and related status. It serves a basis for influencing for working habits of the employees, to review and retain the promotional and other training program. So, nasad pod advantage sa performance appraisal. It is said that performance appraisal is an investment of the company which can be justified by the following advantage. So, first is promotion performance. Appraisal helps the supervisor to chalk out the promotion programs for efficient employees. And second, performance appraisal types. Most performance appraisal are top-down, meaning supervisor evaluate their staff with no input with the budget, but there are other types. So, ang mga supervisor jud na, pero medyo na sa may build sa mga staff nga para okay na ba sila nga naabay sila yung mga problema sa ilang mga trabaho. Yeah, there are types of performance appraisal. Self-assessment. Individuals rate their job performance and behavior. So, mag-self-assessment pud sila nga unsa ilang mga behavior sila sa ilang pagtrabaho. Peer assessment. An individual's work group rates his performance. 360-degree feedback assessment includes input from individual, her supervisor, and her peers. Genotated appraisal, a new trend that utilizes a meditator and attempts to moderate the adversarial nature of performance evaluation by allowing the subject to present first. So, supervisor timidity towards discussing appraisal to workers. Performance appraisal is one of the most treated and hated process for managers and employees. So, here are some of the problems with performance appraisal grouped in 6 categories. So, most serious performance appraisal problems. So, don't assess actual performance. Most of the assessment that managers complete focuses on the person, including the characterization of their personal traits, knowledge, or behavior. So, traits katong commitment, knowledge, technical knowledge, behavior, attendance. Lack of effectiveness metrics. Many accept that the goal of our process are the recognized results, provide feedback to address weaknesses, determine training needs, and to identify for performers. Lack of accountability. Managers are not measured or held accountable for providing accurate feedback, while there are may be justice for completing them late. There's no penalty for doing a half-assed job or making mistake on them, which is incredibly common. 2. Process-related problems. There are disconnected from rewards into many organizations, getting a merit raise bonus. No integration. The process is not fully integrated with computation, performance management, development, or staffing. Not reliable or valid. Most process managers not regularly demonstrate with metrics that the process is constantly repeatable and it is accurately assess performance or valid. Yeah. 3. Instrument form or problems. The process does not flex with the business, really does any portions of appraisal process flex to address changing business objective. Inconsistent ratings on the same form. It is not uncommon for manager to put a one level, high, average, or low, of rating in the Likert scale portion of the form, but another living rating and overall assessment box. Fourth, manager executive problems. There are one, two, three manager executive problems. Managers are not trained. Most organization managers are not trained on how to assess and give honest feedback. Managers don't know the employee. Managers of large and global organizations, as well as newly hired transferred in manager, may be forced to do appraisal employees they barely know. Managers are not rewarded. So, managers that go of their way to provide honest feedback and actually improve the performance of the workers are not rewarded or recognized. Employee subject problem. High absentee because the process so subject and no benchmark. One-way communication. Some managers simply with the form of quickly sign and they don't even solicit feedback. Retention issues. The ultimate cause of an unfair assessment that maybe it actually drives the top employees away from some, but there are no identity recognition and reward for their support performance. Number 6, timing issues, a time-consuming process. Most of the forms are incredible long and time-consuming. So na time is gold and not coordinated with business cycles. Some appraisal dates not coincide with the end of major business periods or season with all other business results are tabulated and reported. And that's all. Thank you.
Common error in appraising employees' performance. Most HR professionals look forward to conducting annual performance reviews about as much as a trip to the dentist. But as the economy improves, performance appraisals are going to be the key for talent retention, a positive work environment, and the overall growth and productivity of your organizations. So para ma-retain ang talent, performance appraisals are going to be the key. 10 rating errors to avoid during performance reviews. Rating errors are factors that mislead or blind us in the appraisal process. Armstrong warned that appraisers must be on guard against anything that distorts reality, either favorably or unfavorably. These are the 10 rating errors seen most often. They where managers and other raters are most likely to go off track. Number 1, central tendency. Clustering everyone in the middle performance categories to avoid extremes of good or bad performance. It's easy but it's wrong. So everyone is clustering in the middle of performance. It's sayo na rin siya pero sayop ni. Kay unfairness sa mga employees nga nagtodo effort and it can be also demoralizing. Number 2, favoritism, overlooking the flaws of favored or nice employees, especially those whom everyone likes. So, kung kinsa to'y pinakaganahan sa tanan, ato po sila favored. And number 3, grouping, excusing below standard performance because it is widespread. Everyone does it. Number 4, guilt by association, rating someone on the basis of the company they keep rather than on the work they do. So, this means nga, ginarate ang someone based sa gikip sa company kaysa sa iyang trabaho nga iyang gibuhat. Number 5, the halo effect. Letting one positive work factor you like affect your overall assessment of performance. Number 6, holding a grudge, a dangerous luxury that may result in your ending up in court. Never try to make employees pay for past behavior. And number 7, the horns effect. The opposite of the halo effect. So, kining horns effect, opposite ni siya sa halo effect since ang halo effect is magletting one positive work factor man while ang kining horn effect letting one negative work factor or behavior you dislike color your opinion of other factors. And number 8, allowing your bias to influence the rating. Bias can come from attitudes and opinions about race, national origin, sex, religion, age, veteran status, disability, hair color, weight, height, intelligence, and etc. So, ang kining bias na gikan niya sa attitudes, sa opinions about race, sa national origins, or sex, religion, age, or intelligence, or etc. Then number 9, recency. Rating only represent performance, good or bad. Data should be representative of the entire review period. If you're not keeping good notes, you may not remember the whole period. So recency is kanang ginarate ra ka sa recent performance nimo, pero if wala na nimo gikip, dili na pud ka mahinumduman. So Armstrong noted that you want to make sure again that you're keeping records so that you can adequately describe performance over an entire performance period. Then lastly, number 10, the sunflower effect. Rating everyone high regardless of performance to make yourself look good or to be able to give more compensation. So this is ginarate ang everyone as pinakataas para make herself look good. So let's discuss counseling process. The counseling process normally consists of the following stages. So, ang counseling process nag-consist ni sadya og tulo ka stages. Number 1, initiating. This involves developing mutual understanding, openness, and acceptance between counselor and counseled. This rapport building is essential to initiate the counseling. So, in this stage, magdamayan ang counselor and counseled through understanding, openness, and acceptance. Number 2, exploration. This involves understanding with the help of the counseling. The counselor's own situation, his feelings, his strengths and weakness, his problems and needs. So in this stage, nag-involve ni si Jack understanding sa counselor's situation with the help of the counseling. The counselor allows the counselee to talk about anything even apparently unrelated to the issue. Ang counselor magatugot sa counseling nga mag-istorya og bisag unsa bisag dili na related sa issue. It is important for the counselor to achieve a free flow of expression, often through ramblings of the employee. The counselor will need an alert and receptive mind for this. The counselor, however, see to it that the counselor eventually concentrates his thoughts on his problem rather than stray away from it. So, ang counselor dapat andam nga mo sabot sa counselee o tabangan niya nga i-concentrate kung unsa ijang problema, dili kay ijang i-distract. So, the counselor has to help the counselee in concentrating more on the problem and getting deeper into it and to discover the basic problems by himself. So, again, ang counselor motabang sa counseling nga ipangitaon ang mga basic problems sa kaugalingan sa counselee. Number 3, formulation of action plan. This involves exploring possible solutions and formulating action plan for implementing them to make the counselee the normal person. So in this stage, ani na mangita og possible solutions and magamag action plan para matabangan ang counselee nga mabalik to a normal person. Human stress. Stress is defined in terms of how it impacts physical and psychological health. It includes mental, physical, and emotional strain. Stress occurs when a demand exceeds an individual's coping ability and disrupts his or her psychological equilibrium. Stress occurs in the workplace when an employee perceives a situation to be too strenuous to handle and therefore threatening to his or her well-being. So, human stress. We all know nga bisag asa ma-stress jud ta. For example, sa workplace kung hago ang trabaho sa employee, di jud malikayan nga ma-stress pud siya. Or basin pud na ay nag-threat niya mo nang isa pud nas maka-stress sa employee. Stress at work. While it is generally agreed that stress occurs at work, views differ on the importance of worker characteristics versus working conditions as its primary cause. The differing viewpoints suggest different ways to prevent stress at work. So, Agreed naman nga ang stress pwede pud mahitabo sa trabaho naapoy different ways para mapugnan ang stress sa trabaho. Mao ang individual characteristics and skills. Different individual characteristics like personality and coping skills can be very important predictors of whether certain job conditions will result in stress. Stress-related disorders encompass a broad array of conditions including psychological disorders, e.g. depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. Sa mo niyang giingon ganiya nga if ma-stress ta, ngay posibilidad nga ma-depress pud ta or maka-experience ba og anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder. And other types of emotional strain, e.g. dissatisfaction, fatigue, tension. Sa sa emotional strain, maka-experience ka og kanang if ma-stressed na ka, feel nimo nga kanunay ra ka kapuyon, wa na kay kalipay. Then maladaptive behaviors, e.g. aggression, substance abuse. So kintahay sa trabaho bisag dili ikaw gipadengag-dengag imong lihok kalitra nga agresibo. Since stress naman ka, abi nimo og ikaw pasabot pero dili man di ay. And cognitive impairment, e.g. concentration and memory problems. So sa cognitive impairment, mawa na ka sa focus. Then job stress is also associated with various biological reactions that may ultimately lead to compromised physical health such as cardiovascular disease. Categories of work stress. 4 categories of stressors underline the different casual circumstances for stress at work. Number 1, task demands. This is the sense of not knowing where a job will lead you and whether the activities and tasks will change. This uncertainty causes stress that manifests itself in feelings of lack of control, concern about career progress, and time pressures. So isa sa maka-cause of stress is ang task demand. Tungod sa kadagang activities, na-pressure na ka kung asay unahon nimo og gama. Number 2, role demands. Role conflict happens when an employee is exposed to inconsistent or difficult expectations. Examples include interrole conflict. So, ang interrole conflict is when there are 2 or more expectations or separate rules for one person. Then, ang intra-role conflict, varying expectations of one role. Then, person-role conflict, ethics are challenged. So ma-challenge ang ethics. Then, ang role ambiguity, confusion about their experiences and relations to the expectations of others. Number 3, interpersonal demands. Examples include emotional issues, abrasive personalities, offensive coworkers, sexual harassment directed mostly toward women, and for leadership, lack of management experience, poor style, cannot handle having power. So, example is, saligan ka sa imong manager nga ikaw mag-lead sa imong coworkers, then lack of management experience man ka, so imbes ipuri ka sa imong manager, makasab-an na hinawin ka tungod sa imong poor leadership. Number 4, physical demands. Many types of work are physically demanding, including strenuous activity, extreme working conditions, travel, exposure to hazardous material, and working in a tight, loud office. Stress outside of the workplace. Then work demands can create stress both inside and outside of work. Stress is inherently cumulative and it can be difficult to separate our personal and professional stress and dosers. So, ningan naman ko ganiya nga ang stress, di dyan na mabuhag na to. Naa dyan na kanunay. Dili ra kay sa trabaho, kundi napad na sa atong personal nga kinabuhi. Examples of non-work stress that can be carried into the workplace include home demands. Yes, isa pud ni sa maka-stress na to. Relationships, children, and family responsibilities can add stress that is hard to leave behind when entering the workplace. So, kung na kay problema daan sa pamilya, then, especially sa kanang financial, then napakay mga napapagkay complicated relationship, then mapunan pa dyan sa stress sa trabaho. So, mo na siya. The Academy of Management Journal states that this constitutes an individual's lack of personal resources needed to fulfill commitments, obligations, or requirements. Personal demands. Personal demands are brought on by the person when he or she takes on too many responsibilities either inside or outside of work. Preventing job stress. If employees are experiencing unhealthy levels of stress, a manager can bring in an objective outsider, such as a consultant, to suggest a fresh approach. So, kung ang employees naka-experience na og unhealthy levels of stress, ang manager is magkuan dyan na siya consultant. Kaya labi na og sa ligando niya ag na-stress nga employees para makabalik sa trabaho ang employees, tagaan dyan na niya og support. Or baka tagaan sa niya og leave para makarelax kay basin tungod jud sa kahago sa trabaho man nang na-stress pad ang employees. But there are many ways managers can prevent job stress in the first place. A combination of organizational change and stress management is often the most effective approach. Among the many different techniques managers can use to effectively prevent employee stress, the main underlying themes are awareness of possibly stressful elements of the workplace and intervention when necessary to mitigate any stress that does arise. Specifically, organizations can prevent employee stress in the following ways. Ang organizations, pwede na sila makaprevent stress sa mga employee kung magama sila og kanang stress management. So number 1, intentional job design. Design jobs that provide meaning and stimulation for workers as well as opportunities for them to use their skills. Then establish work schedules that are compatible with demands and responsibilities outside the job. Then consider flexible schedules. Many organizations allow telecommuting to reduce the pressure of being a certain place at a certain time, which enables people to better balance their personal lives. So daghan ng mga organizations nga nag-allow og kanang telecommuting para ma-reduce ang mga pressure sa mga employees and para ma-balance pa nila ilang personal lives. Dili ra kay puro trabaho ra ilang kuan. Then monitor each employee's workload to ensure it is in line with their capabilities and resources. So i-monitor pod ang trabaho sa mga employees kung makaya ra ba nila. Then number 2, clear and open communication. Teach employees about stress awareness and promote an open dialogue. So tudloan ang mga employees about stress awareness, then mag-promote an open dialogue. Avoid ambiguity at all costs. Clearly define workers' roles and responsibilities. Reduce uncertainty about career development and future employment prospects. And number 3, positive workplace culture. Provide opportunities for social interaction among workers. So, mag-provide kang mga opportunities o mga social interactions para sa imong mga workers. Then, watch for signs of dissatisfaction for bullying and work to combat workplace discrimination based on race, gender, national origin, religion, or language. So, dapat magtanaw ka sa mga signs about kung saan pag-combat sa mga discrimination. The number 4, employee accountability. Give workers opportunities to participate in decision and actions that affect their job. So, tagaan nimo og opportunities ang workers nga mo-participate sa decision o sa action sa ilang trabaho. Then introduce a participative leadership style and involve as many subordinates as possible in resolving stress-producing problems. Nga mag-introduce pagka og kanang participative leadership nga possible nga maka-resolve sa stress-producing problems.